The morning sun filtered through the windows of Seoul's bustling coffee bean cafe, highlighting the tears that Minji struggled to hold back. Her phone screen displayed Jun Suk's message, "I made a mistake. Please give me another chance." The betrayal still felt fresh, even after 3 weeks. Minji watched as her coffee grew cold, remembering how she had discovered his affair with her former best friend through a carelessly left open chat window on his laptop. And if you want a handsome CEO in your life and love videos like this, subscribe to our channel to have 10 years of luck in your life. The cafe buzzed with the usual morning crowd, students rushing to classes, office workers grabbing their daily caffeine fix, and young professionals like herself trying to piece their lives back together. Minji wiped her eyes with a napkin, careful not to smudge her carefully applied makeup. She had spent too many nights crying over someone who hadn't valued their 5-year relationship. Today would be different. Minji picked up her phone and blocked Jun Suk's number without responding to his message. The action felt both terrifying and liberating, like jumping off a cliff and finding out she could fly. She gathered her belongings, straightened her navy blue blazer, and headed toward the COEX Convention Center, where the Seoul Tech Job Fair was being held. The convention center was packed with job seekers in their best business attire, all hoping to land their dream position. Minji walked past several major corporation booths, her marketing degree and 3 years of experience giving her confidence. However, nothing caught her attention until she reached a smaller but notably sleek booth with the logo Innovate Sphere. That's when she first saw Hoonwoo. He stood on a small platform, commanding attention without trying. Unlike the other presenters in traditional business suits, he wore a well-fitted charcoal blazer over a black turtleneck, exuding both authority and approachability. His presentation style was equally distinctive. "Innovation isn't just about creating something new," Hoonwoo declared, his voice carrying across the crowd. "It's about solving problems that matter. At InnovateSphere, we're not just building another tech company, we're creating solutions that change lives." His passion was evident in every word, and Minji found herself moving closer to the front of the crowd. Hoonwoo continued his presentation, describing InnovateSphere's mission to revolutionize how small businesses compete in the digital marketplace. He spoke about their artificial intelligence solutions that leveled the playing field between local shops and major corporations. Minji's marketing background immediately recognized the potential impact of their approach. During the Q&A session, Minji raised her hand and asked about their marketing strategy for reaching traditional business owners who might be technology-averse. Her question caught Hoonwoo's attention. He paused, genuinely considering her point, before giving a thoughtful response about the importance of human connection in technological advancement. After the presentation, Minji approached the booth to submit her resume. The recruiter, impressed by her question during the presentation, arranged an immediate preliminary interview. Minji's marketing experience and fresh perspectives on reaching traditional markets aligned perfectly with InnovateSphere's needs. 2 days later, Minji received an email inviting her for a formal interview. She spent hours preparing, researching InnovateSphere's projects, and developing proposals for potential marketing campaigns. The preparation paid off. She was offered the position of Marketing Strategy Manager. On her first day at InnovateSphere, Minji arrived early, wearing a carefully chosen outfit that projected both professionalism and creativity. The office space was modern but welcoming, with open workspaces and asphalt meeting rooms. As she was being shown to her desk by HR, Hoonwoo emerged from one of the meeting rooms. "Minji, welcome to InnovateSphere," he greeted her with a warm smile. Up close, she noticed details she had missed during the job fair. The intelligent gleam in his eyes, the subtle confidence in his posture, and the genuine warmth in his expression. Their eyes met briefly, and Minji felt an unexpected flutter in her chest. The sensation both thrilled and terrified her. The last thing she needed was to develop feelings for her new boss, especially when her heart was still healing from Jun Suk's betrayal. She quickly pushed the thoughts aside, reminding herself that she was here to rebuild her career, not her love life. Hoonwoo gave her a brief tour of the marketing department, introducing her to team members and explaining current projects. His leadership style was collaborative rather than authoritative, and he showed genuine interest in her ideas even on her first day. This was exactly the professional environment Min-ji had been hoping to find. As she settled into her new desk and began setting up her workstation, Min-ji felt a mix of emotions. The excitement of a new beginning competed with lingering hurt from her past. While Hoon-woo's presence stirred something in her she wasn't ready to acknowledge, the professional opportunity before her was clear. For now, that would be enough. She opened her laptop and began her first day at InnovateSphere, determined to prove herself in this new chapter of her life. 2 weeks into her new position at InnovateSphere, Min-ji sat in the weekly marketing team meeting, her laptop open and her mind focused on the presentation she had prepared. The conference room buzzed with anticipation as team members filtered in, taking their usual seats around the large glass table. Hoon-woo entered last, his presence immediately commanding attention without demanding it. Min-ji had spent the weekend analyzing market trends and developing a comprehensive strategy for reaching traditional business owners. As she presented her findings, she noticed Hoon-woo leaning forward slightly, his attention fully engaged. She outlined her proposal for a hybrid approach that combined digital innovation with traditional relationship-building techniques, something that would bridge the gap between old and new business paradigms. "This is exactly the fresh perspective we needed," Hoon-woo said when she finished. "Min-ji SSI has identified a crucial gap in our approach. I want this implemented as our primary strategy for the next quarter." The praise sent a warm current of pride through Min-ji's chest. Other team members nodded in agreement, and she noticed several taking additional notes. After the meeting, Min-ji headed to the company cafeteria with Ji-yoon, a fellow team member who had quickly become her closest colleague. They found a quiet corner table, away from the lunch rush. Ji-yoon's friendly demeanor and quick wit had made Min-ji's transition to InnovateSphere much smoother. "That was impressive back there," Ji-yoon said, opening her lunch container. "Hoon-woo doesn't give praise easily, you know. When he does, he means it." She paused, studying Min-ji's expression. "But something's still bothering you, isn't it? And don't tell me it's work-related." Min-ji pushed her food around with her chopsticks, considering how much to share. "I recently got out of a long-term relationship," she admitted. "He cheated on me with my best friend." The words still tasted bitter in her mouth. Ji-yoon's expression shifted from surprise to understanding. "I know exactly how that feels," she said quietly. 3 years ago, I caught my fiancé with his colleague. We were 2 months away from the wedding." She took a sip of water, her eyes distant with memory. "It nearly broke me, but looking back, it was the best thing that could have happened. I wouldn't be here otherwise." The revelation created a deeper bond between them. They spent the rest of lunch sharing their experiences, finding humor in their similar coping mechanisms, the ice cream binges, the dramatic haircuts, the failed attempts at meditation apps. Min-ji felt a weight lifting as she finally found someone who truly understood her situation. Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the cafeteria entrance. Min-ji looked up and felt her blood freeze. Jun-suk stood there, scanning the room. He wore an expensive suit that screamed trying too hard, holding a bouquet of roses that seemed more like a weapon than a peace offering. "How did he even get in here?" Min-ji whispered, her appetite vanishing instantly. Ji-yoon's expression hardened as she quickly assessed the situation. "Min-ji-ah," Jun-suk called out, spotting her. He started walking toward their table, ignoring the curious stares from other employees. "We need to talk. You can't keep ignoring me." Min-ji stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. She felt her professional mask sliding into place, the one she had perfected over the past few weeks. "This is my workplace, Jun-suk. You have no right to be here. 5 years together and you won't even give me 5 minutes?" He held out the roses, his expression a practiced mix of regret and charm that she once found irresistible. Now, it just looked manipulative. "The 5 years ended the moment you decided to sleep with Soo-jin," Min-ji stated firmly, her voice carrying in the now silent cafeteria. "Please leave before I call security." Ji-yoon stood beside her, a silent but steady presence. Other colleagues began to gather nearby, their protective stance clear. Jun-suk's confident expression wavered as he realized he had miscalculated. This wasn't the vulnerable Minji he had known. This was someone stronger, someone who had built a new support system. "Everything okay here?" Hoonwoo's voice cut through the tension. He had appeared at the cafeteria entrance, his expression calm but authoritative. Minji noticed how Jun-suk seemed to shrink slightly under Hoonwoo's steady gaze. "Just leaving," Jun-suk muttered, dropping the roses on a nearby table. He turned and walked out, his dramatic entrance reduced to an awkward retreat. The cafeteria slowly returned to its normal buzz, but Minji remained standing, her hands trembling slightly. Ji-yoon guided her back to their table, while Hoonwoo approached. "I'll have security update their protocols," he said quietly. "This won't happen again," Minji said. "You're safe here." The genuine concern in his voice touched something deep inside her. As Hoonwoo left, Ji-yoon reached across the table and squeezed Minji's hand. "You handled that perfectly," she said. "And did you see how fast Hoonwoo showed up? He must have been watching out for you." Minji managed a small smile, realizing that for the first time since discovering Jun-suk's betrayal, she felt truly strong. The incident had shown her how much she had grown, how different her life had become. She had found not just a new job, but a place where she was valued and protected. Looking around the cafeteria at her concerned colleagues, at Ji-yoon's supportive smile, and remembering Hoonwoo's quiet strength, Minji knew she had made the right decision in coming to Innovate Sphere. This wasn't just a fresh start, it was a transformation. The Innovate Sphere office hummed with energy as Minji and Hoonwoo worked late into the evening on Project Phoenix, their ambitious initiative to revolutionize small business digitalization. The open plan office had emptied hours ago, leaving them alone with their ideas and the soft glow of their laptop screens. Empty coffee cups and scattered notepads covered the conference room table, evidence of their intense brainstorming session. Minji studied the market analysis projections on her screen while Hoonwoo paced behind her, thinking aloud about implementation challenges. Their working dynamic had evolved naturally over the past few weeks. She provided the practical marketing insights while he pushed the boundaries of what seemed possible. Together, they were creating something neither could have conceived alone. "The problem isn't just technological resistance," Minji explained, pulling up a survey from their target demographic. "These business owners have been burned before by expensive software that promised solutions but delivered complications. We need to show them that our platform is different." She turned to face Hoonwoo, finding him already nodding in understanding. "What if we offered a 3-month trial period?" he suggested, pulling up a chair beside her. The proximity sent a subtle flutter through her stomach, which she firmly ignored. Not just a free trial, but a full implementation with dedicated support staff. Show them real results before asking for any commitment. Minji felt the familiar excitement of a good idea taking shape. That could work, especially if we focus on businesses that others consider too traditional to digitalize. Success stories from those clients would carry significant weight in the market. She began typing rapidly, expanding on the concept. Their shoulders brushed as they leaned toward the screen, and Minji noticed how Hoonwoo didn't pull away. The casual contact felt natural, comfortable. She could smell his subtle cologne, something clean and understated, like his leadership style. These moments of awareness were becoming more frequent and increasingly harder to dismiss. Hours passed as they refined the proposal. When they finally looked up, the office windows reflected their images against the dark Seoul skyline. Minji stretched, her muscles protesting the long sitting session. "I didn't realize it had gotten so late," she said, checking her phone. It was past 10. "We should celebrate our progress," Hoonwoo suggested, standing and gathering his jacket. "There's a good pojangmaka around the corner. Nothing fancy, but they serve excellent soju and the best tteokbokki in the neighborhood." His invitation carried no pressure, just genuine warmth. Minji hesitated for a moment, remembering her promise to herself about keeping things professional. But the idea of ending the night alone in her apartment seemed suddenly unappealing. "That sounds perfect, actually. I'm starving." The pojangmaka was exactly as Hoonwoo described, a humble street food tent with plastic chairs and folding tables, but filled with delicious aromas and the comfortable buzz of after-work conversations. They found a quiet corner, and soon their table was covered with steaming plates of tteokbokki, odeng, and other street food favorites. As they shared the food and soju, their conversation drifted away from work. Hoon-woo told her about growing up in a middle-class family in Busan, about his parents who still ran a small fish market, the very type of business he now wanted to help modernize. Min-ji shared stories about her university days, carefully avoiding any mention of Jun-suk. "You're different from what I expected," Min-ji admitted after her second cup of soju. The warm evening air and good food had loosened her usual professional reserve. Hoon-woo raised an eyebrow, amused. "What did you expect? The typical chaebol heir, I suppose. Someone who inherited their position and success." She immediately worried she had overstepped, but Hoon-woo laughed. "I started Innovate Sphere in my garage," he revealed. "Spent 2 years living on instant ramen and coffee while coding the initial platform. The success came later, and it wasn't inherited, it was earned, one client at a time." His honesty touched something in Min-ji. She found herself opening up about her own struggles, about feeling stuck in her previous job, about wanting to make a real difference in people's lives. Hoon-woo listened intently, asking questions that showed genuine interest in her perspective. The evening flew by, and when they finally decided to leave, neither seemed eager to end the conversation. They walked together to the subway station, their steps falling naturally in sync. The night air was cool, and Min-ji wished she had brought a warmer jacket. Without comment, Hoon-woo shrugged off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. The gesture was simple but intimate, and Min-ji felt her heart skip. She looked up to thank him and found him watching her with an expression that made her breath catch. For a moment, the busy Seoul street faded away, and there was only this connection, this possibility, this dangerous feeling of wanting more. Then a group of loud teenagers passed by, breaking the spell. Min-ji stepped back slightly, reality rushing back in. She wasn't ready for this, wasn't sure she could trust these feelings. The weight of Jun-suk's betrayal still sat heavy in her memories. "Thank you for tonight," she said softly, sliding his jacket off her shoulders and returning it. "For everything." Hoon-woo accepted the jacket with a gentle smile that suggested he understood more than she was saying. "Thank you for trusting me with your ideas," he replied. Both professional and personal. They parted ways at the subway entrance, but something had shifted between them. As Min-ji rode home, she couldn't stop thinking about the evening, about Hoon-woo's laughter, his considerate gestures, the way he listened as if her words mattered. It terrified her how easily he was slipping past her carefully constructed defenses. Back in her apartment, Min-ji stood by her window, looking out at the city lights. She had come to Innovate Sphere looking for professional growth, not romantic complications. But life, she was learning, rarely followed the plans we made for it. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Innovate Sphere's break room as Ji-yoon cornered Min-ji by the coffee machine. "So, are we going to talk about how you and Hoon-woo were the last ones to leave the office last night?" Ji-yoon's knowing smile suggested she already knew more than she was letting on. Min-ji focused on stirring her coffee, watching the cream create swirling patterns. "We were working on Project Phoenix. You know how important this launch is." She tried to keep her voice neutral, professional, but she could feel warmth creeping into her cheeks. "Min-ji-ah," Ji-yoon said gently, "I saw you both at Young-sik's Pojangmaka. That didn't look like work to me." She leaned against the counter, her expression becoming more serious. "You know, not everyone is Jun-suk. Some people are actually worthy of trust." The words hit Min-ji harder than she expected. She had been so focused on protecting herself that she hadn't realized how obvious her defenses had become. "It's not that simple," she protested, but even to her own ears, the words sounded weak. Ji-yoon took Min-ji's arm and guided her to a quiet corner of the break room. "Let me tell you something about Hoon-woo that not many people know," she said, lowering her voice. "When my ex-fiancé tried to get me fired after our breakup, Hoon-woo not only defended me but also helped me file a harassment complaint. He didn't have to do that, but he did because it was right. That's the kind of person he is." Min-ji absorbed this information, thinking about all the small ways Hoonwoo had shown his character, how he credited his team's ideas in meetings, how he remembered everyone's coffee preferences, how he stayed late to help junior developers debug their code. These weren't the actions of someone playing a role. They were the natural expressions of who he was. "You've been watching him all this time, haven't you?" Ji-yoon observed with a slight smile, looking for cracks in the perfect image, waiting for him to show his true colors. But what if this is who he really is? What if you're missing out on something real because you're fighting battles from the past? Before Min-ji could respond, her phone buzzed with a message. From Hoonwoo. "Would you like to have dinner with me tonight? Not for work this time, just dinner." The message was simple, direct, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Min-ji stared at the screen, her heart racing. Ji-yoon read the message over her shoulder and squeezed her arm encouragingly. "Say yes. Give yourself permission to be happy again." She paused, then added with a grin. "Besides, if he turns out to be a jerk, we can always put fish sauce in his coffee." The absurdity of the suggestion made Min-ji laugh, breaking the tension. She looked at the message again and, before she could overthink it, typed, "Yes, I'd like that." The response came immediately. "I'll pick you up at 7. The rest of the day passed in a blur of anticipation and nervous energy. Min-ji was grateful for the heavy workload that kept her mind occupied, though she caught herself glancing at the clock more often than usual. At 6, she ducked into the bathroom to freshen up, grateful she had packed an evening outfit, a simple but elegant black dress that Ji-yoon had convinced her to buy just in case. Hoonwoo was waiting in the lobby at exactly 7, having changed into a well-fitted charcoal suit that made him look even more handsome than usual. His face lit up when he saw her, and Min-ji felt something shift inside her, a wall beginning to crumble. He took her to a small, elegant restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. The space was intimate but not overwhelming, with soft lighting and classical music playing in the background. Their table offered a view of the Seoul skyline, the city lights twinkling like stars. "I hope you like Japanese fusion," Hoonwoo said as they settled in. "The chef here trained in Tokyo for 10 years before opening this place. He's another small business owner who took a chance on modernizing. He uses an app-based reservation system I helped develop." The conversation flowed naturally as they shared dishes and stories. Hoonwoo told her about his first failed startup, about the lessons he learned from that experience. Min-ji found herself sharing more personal stories as well, including how she had discovered her passion for marketing while helping her uncle's struggling bookstore. "What made you choose InnovateSphere?" Hoonwoo asked as they finished their main course. "You had offers from larger companies. I saw your resume. Why take a chance on us?" Min-ji considered the question carefully. "Because you weren't just selling a product or a service," she answered honestly. "You were selling hope, the idea that small businesses could compete in a digital world without losing their soul. I wanted to be part of that story." Hoonwoo reached across the table and took her hand. His touch was warm, steady, grounding. "And now you're not just part of the story," he said softly. "You're helping write it." The moment stretched between them, full of unspoken possibilities. Min-ji felt the familiar urge to pull back, to protect herself, but this time she resisted it. Instead, she turned her hand in his, intertwining their fingers. They stayed like that, talking and sharing dessert, until the restaurant began to close. Outside, the night air was cool and clear. Hoonwoo offered to call a taxi, but Min-ji suggested they walk for a while instead. They strolled through the quiet streets, their hands finding each other again naturally. Near a small park, they stopped to watch the last street performers of the night pack up their instruments. The music had faded, but the night still felt full of melody. When Hoonwoo turned to face her, Min-ji saw in his eyes everything she had been afraid to hope for: respect, understanding, and something deeper that made her heart race. For the first time since Jun-suk's betrayal, Min-ji felt truly ready to take a chance on love again. The realization was both terrifying and exhilarating, like standing on the edge of something vast and beautiful. As she looked up at Hoonwoo, she knew that whatever happened next, this moment was worth all the risk. The morning sun had barely risen when Min-ji arrived at InnovateSphere's office building. She paused at the entrance, confronted by an elaborate display of flowers blocking her path. The bouquet was excessive: roses, lilies, and orchids arranged with obvious expense rather than taste. A card nestled among the blooms bore her name in Jun-suk's familiar handwriting. Security guards were already moving to remove the display, but Min-ji caught a glimpse of the message. "I know I made mistakes, but what we had was real. Don't throw it away for someone who doesn't know you like I do." The words sent a chill through her despite the warm morning air. Min-ji walked past the flowers without taking them, her heels clicking against the marble floor with determined precision. She had just reached her desk when her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "The flowers are just the beginning. I won't give up on us." She deleted the message immediately, but her hands trembled slightly as she set down her phone. "Min-ji." Hoon-woo's voice startled her. He stood by her desk, his expression concerned. "I saw the flowers. Are you okay?" The genuine worry in his voice made her throat tight. "I'm fine," she said automatically, then corrected herself. "Actually, no. I'm not fine. I'm angry that he thinks he can just force his way back into my life." She looked up at Hoon-woo, seeing not just her boss or potential romantic interest, but someone who had earned her trust. "Could we talk somewhere private?" Hoon-woo nodded, leading her to his office. Unlike the stark, modern design of the rest of the building, his space felt more personal. Warm wood tones, comfortable chairs, and a wall of books that revealed his intellectual curiosity. He closed the door and gestured for her to sit. "Jun-suk seems to be escalating his attempts to contact you," he observed, taking the seat next to her rather than behind his desk. "We can increase security measures if you feel threatened." Min-ji shook her head. "It's not physical threat I'm worried about. It's the emotional manipulation. He knows exactly which buttons to push, which insecurities to target." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "He mentioned you in his note. He's trying to make me doubt what's developing between us." Something flickered in Hoon-woo's eyes, concern, certainly, but also something deeper. He was quiet for a moment before speaking. "Can I tell you something I've never shared with anyone at the company?" When Min-ji nodded, he continued, "Before Innovate Sphere, I was engaged." The revelation surprised Min-ji. She had never heard any mention of a previous engagement, despite the media's constant interest in Hoon-woo's personal life. "Her name was De-young," he continued. "We were together for 3 years. She was the CFO of my first startup, and I thought we were building something amazing together, both professionally and personally." His voice carried old pain, carefully managed but still present. "What I didn't know was that she was selling our technology to competitors. The company failed, and I lost everything: my business, my savings, and someone I thought I would spend my life with." Min-ji reached out instinctively, taking his hand. Hoon-woo squeezed it gently before continuing. "It took me 2 years to trust anyone in business again, longer to trust and love. But eventually, I realized that letting her betrayal define my future meant she won twice. Once when she destroyed my company, and again every time I chose fear over possibility." He turned to face Min-ji fully. "I'm telling you this because I understand the weight of betrayal. I know how it makes you question everything: your judgment, your worth, your ability to trust. But I also know that healing is possible, and that sometimes the greatest act of defiance against those who hurt us is to be happy despite them." Tears welled in Min-ji's eye. Not from sadness, but from recognition. Hoon-woo's vulnerability, his willingness to share his own wounds, touched something deep within her. For the first time, she saw him not as someone who couldn't understand her pain, but as someone who had walked a similar path. "How did you do it?" she asked softly. "How did you learn to trust again?" "One day at a time," he answered. "By realizing that while experience makes us wiser, it shouldn't make us harder. By understanding that the people who hurt us don't get to write the end of our story." He smiled slightly. "And by meeting someone who made me want to try again." The implication hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility. Min-ji felt the last of her defensive walls beginning to crumble. Here was someone who understood both her professional ambitions and her personal fears, who had faced similar betrayals but chosen hope over bitterness. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of Jun-suk, exactly. I'm scared of being wrong again, of trusting the wrong person." "That's perfectly natural," Hoonwoo assured her. "But consider this. Maybe the real risk isn't in trusting again, but in letting fear stop us from finding something genuine and beautiful." As they sat there, hands still linked, Min-ji realized something profound. Jun-suk's attempts to control her narrative were failing because she wasn't the same person he had known. She had grown stronger, wiser, and had found someone who understood both her scars and her potential. The morning sun streamed through the office windows, casting a warm glow over them both. In that moment, Min-ji made a decision. She would not let her past dictate her future. Whatever came next, she would face it with the strength she had built and the support she had found. The Innovate Sphere office buzzed with anticipation as Min-ji prepared for her presentation to the board of directors. Project Phoenix had evolved significantly under her guidance, transforming from a simple digitalization platform into a comprehensive solution that addressed the real needs of traditional business owners. Ji-yoon sat with her in the conference room, helping her review the final slides. "You've thought of everything," Ji-yoon observed, scrolling through the detailed market analysis. "The way you've connected emotional resistance to technological change with practical solutions is brilliant. Even the most traditional shop owners will understand this approach." Min-ji adjusted her presentation notes, thinking about how far she had come since joining Innovate Sphere. Her initial marketing strategy had expanded into a complete business transformation model. She had spent weeks interviewing small business owners, understanding their fears and aspirations, and designing solutions that spoke to both. "I realized something while working on this," Min-ji said, turning to Ji-yoon. "When I first came here, I was so focused on proving myself, on showing everyone I was competent and professional. But the real breakthrough came when I started listening to people's stories, understanding their struggles. It's not just about digital transformation, it's about helping people believe in their own potential for growth." Ji-yoon smiled knowingly. "Sounds like you're not just talking about the business owners anymore." Before Min-ji could respond, Hoonwoo entered the conference room. His presence still made her heart skip, but now it was accompanied by a sense of comfort rather than anxiety. "The board members are arriving early," he informed them. "Are you ready?" Min-ji gathered her materials, feeling surprisingly calm. "More than ready. This project isn't just about business anymore, it's personal." The boardroom was intimidating, filled with senior executives in expensive suits. Min-ji stood before them, conscious of the weight of her responsibility. But as she began her presentation, her voice was clear and confident. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been approaching digital transformation from the wrong angle," she began. "We've been trying to sell technology when we should have been selling hope. Every small business owner I interviewed didn't just want a better system, they wanted to preserve their legacy while building a future." As she presented her findings, Min-ji noticed the board members leaning forward, engaged by her narrative. She showed them interviews with local shop owners, demonstrated how their platform could preserve traditional business practices while enabling growth, and presented concrete data supporting her approach. "Miss Park," one of the board members interrupted, "this is considerably more ambitious than our original scope. The implementation costs alone would be significant." Min-ji had anticipated this concern. "You're absolutely right," she acknowledged. "But look at these projections." She pulled up a detailed financial analysis. "By investing in comprehensive support and training, we're not just selling software, we're building lasting partnerships. Our pilot program with the Gangnam traditional market showed a 300% return on investment within 6 months." Hoonwoo watched from the corner, his expression proud but professional. Min-ji drew strength from his presence as she continued outlining her vision for Project Phoenix. She wasn't just presenting a business plan, she was sharing a vision of transformation that resonated with her own journey. After the presentation, the board members huddled together, discussing intensely. Finally, the chairwoman turned to Min-ji. "Ms. Park, this is exactly the kind of innovative thinking Innovate Sphere needs. We're not just approving your proposal, we want you to lead the entire Project Phoenix division." The promotion was unexpected but felt right. Minji had grown beyond her initial role, just as the project had grown beyond its original scope. As the board members filed out, offering congratulations, she felt a profound sense of achievement. Later that evening, Minji stood by the office window, looking out at the Seoul skyline. The city lights reminded her of all the small businesses she hoped to help, all the dreams waiting to be realized. Hoonwoo joined her, maintaining a professional distance despite the pride evident in his expression. "You didn't just impress them," he said quietly. "You showed them a future they hadn't imagined possible. That's what real leadership looks like." Minji turned to face him. "I learned from the best," she replied. "You showed me that success isn't just about having the right strategy. It's about believing in possibility, about taking chances on people and ideas." Speaking of taking chances, Hoonwoo began, but Minji surprised them both by reaching for his hand. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said firmly. "Not of success, not of failure, and definitely not of letting myself be happy. Whatever challenges come next, I want to face them standing tall, not hiding from possibility." The moment was interrupted by Jiyoon knocking on the door. "Sorry to interrupt, but the team is waiting to celebrate. They've gotten champagne and everything." Minji and Hoonwoo shared a smile, their hands lingering together for a moment before separating. As they walked to join the celebration, Minji realized that true growth wasn't about leaving the past behind. It was about building something new from its lessons. She had arrived at Innovate Sphere looking for a fresh start, but she had found something far more valuable: the courage to believe in herself and in the possibility of love again. The Grand Hyatt's ballroom sparkled with elegant decoration for Innovate Sphere's product launch event. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the gathered crowd of investors, business partners, and media representatives. Minji stood near the stage, reviewing her presentation notes one final time. Her dark blue evening dress, chosen carefully for the occasion, reflected her new position as Project Phoenix division head. Colleagues approached her continuously, offering congratulations on the project's successful development. Each compliment reinforced what she had begun to understand. Her success wasn't just about proving something to others, but about discovering her own capabilities. Jiyoon appeared at her side, looking elegant in a red cocktail dress. "The investors can't stop talking about your market adaptation strategy," Jiyoon said, handing Minji a glass of champagne. "I overheard 2 venture capitalists arguing over who would get to fund the international expansion." She paused, studying Minji's expression. "You've really done it, you know. You've changed how an entire industry thinks about digital transformation." Before Minji could respond, a murmur rippled through the crowd. Hoonwoo had taken the stage, commanding attention in his perfectly tailored black suit. His presence drew all eyes, but Minji noticed that his gaze found hers first, sharing a subtle smile before he addressed the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the launch of Project Phoenix," he began. "Tonight represents more than just a new product release. It represents a fundamental shift in how we approach technological innovation." He gestured toward Minji. "Under the leadership of Minji Park, we've discovered that true digital transformation isn't about replacing tradition with technology. It's about empowering tradition to thrive in a digital age." The crowd applauded as Minji made her way to the stage. Standing beside Hoonwoo, she felt a surge of pride in what they had accomplished together. She began her presentation, sharing stories of the small business owners who had participated in their pilot program. The audience leaned in, captured by her authentic passion for helping traditional businesses survive and thrive. "The corner grocery store that's been in the same family for 3 generations," she explained, showing slides of their success stories. "The traditional medicine shop that now reaches customers across the country. These aren't just businesses we're helping, they're legacies we're preserving." As she concluded her presentation to enthusiastic applause, Minji felt a sense of completion. She had found her purpose, combining her marketing expertise with a genuine desire to help others succeed. The applause continued as she stepped down from the stage, accepting congratulations from attendees. Then she saw him. Jun-suk stood near the back of the ballroom, wearing an expensive suit and a calculating expression. He was speaking quietly with a group of investors, his gestures animated and persuasive. Minji's stomach tightened as she recognized his familiar pattern of manipulation. Jiyoon noticed him too. What is he doing here? This is a private event. She started toward security, but Minji caught her arm. Wait, Minji said, watching Jun-suk more carefully. He's showing them something on his phone. I want to know what he's up to. They moved closer, pretending to be engaged in conversation while listening to Jun-suk's words. His voice carried just enough for them to hear. The technology isn't as original as they claim. I have proof that similar systems were developed months ago by competing firms. Minji felt her blood run cold. She knew their technology was unique. She had been involved in every step of its development. But Jun-suk spoke with a confident authority that had once fooled her, and she could see doubt beginning to form on the investors' faces. Hoon-woo appeared beside them, his expression concerned but controlled. Is there a problem, gentlemen? He asked, his voice carrying just enough to draw attention from nearby groups. Jun-suk turned, his fake smile not quite reaching his eyes. Mr. Kim, I was just explaining to these investors some concerns about Project Phoenix's originality. As someone with extensive experience in the field, I felt obligated to share my insights. Extensive experience?
Minji stared.
Head forward, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Would that be the experience you gained while working at your father's company, the one you claimed you helped digitalize? She looked directly at the investors. Did he tell you that company filed for bankruptcy last year because they failed to modernize? Jun-suk's confidence wavered. He hadn't expected her to know about his past failures, hadn't realized she had done her research after their breakup. But Minji wasn't finished. Our technology isn't just original, it's revolutionary because it addresses the human element of digital transformation, something you never understood. She pulled out her tablet, displaying their patent documentation. And it's fully protected by international patents filed 3 months ago. The investors turned to Jun-suk, their expressions shifting from doubt to disapproval. Hoon-woo stepped closer to Minji, his presence supportive but not protective. He knew she could handle this herself. Security. Hoon-woo called quietly, please escort this gentleman out. He wasn't invited to this private event. As security led Jun-suk away, he turned back to Minji. You've changed, he said, sounding almost surprised. Yes, I have, Minji replied calmly. I've grown stronger, wiser, and more successful than you ever thought I could be. And I did it without you. After Jun-suk's departure, the event quickly returned to its celebratory atmosphere. If anything, Minji's handling of the situation seemed to impress the investors even more. Throughout the evening, she continued to receive praise not just for Project Phoenix, but for her poise and leadership under pressure. Later, as the event wound down, Hoon-woo found her on the ballroom's terrace. The Seoul skyline twinkled before them, a testament to the endless possibilities ahead. You were amazing in there, he said softly. Though I'm not surprised, you've always been stronger than you knew. Minji looked at the city lights, feeling a profound sense of peace. I used to think strength meant never showing vulnerability, never letting anyone close enough to hurt you, she said. But real strength is about being brave enough to stay true to yourself, even when others try to make you doubt everything you've built. As they stood together under the stars, Minji realized that Jun-suk's attempt to undermine her had failed not because she had grown stronger, but because she had finally recognized the strength that was there all along. The success of Project Phoenix's launch event marked a turning point for InnovateSphere, bringing in a flood of new clients and media attention. Minji found herself working late one evening, reviewing implementation strategies for their newest partners. The office had emptied hours ago, leaving her alone with her thoughts and the gentle hum of her computer. A knock on her office door drew her attention. Hoon-woo stood there, his tie loosened and jacket draped over his arm, looking as tired as she felt. I thought I might find you here, he said, entering with 2 cups of coffee from their favorite cafe. You've been working nonstop since the launch. Minji accepted the coffee gratefully, recognizing it as the special blend she had mentioned liking weeks ago. The fact that he remembered such a small detail made her heart warm. There's so much to do, she explained, gesturing at her computer screen. These businesses are trusting us with their futures. I don't want to let them down. Hoonwoo pulled up a chair beside her desk, close enough that she could smell his familiar cologne. You know what I admire most about you? He asked, his voice soft in the quiet office. It's not just your intelligence or your dedication. It's how deeply you care about making a difference in people's lives. Their eyes met, and the air between them seemed to charge with unspoken emotions. Minji found herself leaning closer, drawn by the genuine warmth in his gaze. This Tim. When Hoonwoo reached for her hand, she didn't hesitate. Their first kiss was gentle, a natural progression of the trust and understanding they had built together. When they finally parted, Minji felt tears in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that she had found someone who saw her completely and valued all that she was. Hoonwoo wiped away a tear with his thumb, the gesture impossibly tender. I've been wanting to do that for a long time, he admitted, his usually confident voice slightly shaky. But I needed you to be ready. I needed you to know that this isn't about work or convenience. This is about you, Minji, and everything that makes you extraordinary. Their moment of connection was interrupted by Minji's phone buzzing insistently. A series of messages from an unknown number flashed across the screen, photos of them together at various moments over the past weeks, followed by a message from Jun-suk. Does the board know about this office romance? What would investors think about such unprofessional behavior? Minji's hand trembled as she showed the messages to Hoonwoo. The joy of their first kiss was overshadowed by the reality of Jun-suk's continued presence in their lives. He's been watching us, she whispered, feeling violated. All this time, he's been gathering ammunition. Hoonwoo's expression hardened as he read the messages, but his voice remained calm. Minji, look at me, he said firmly. What we have isn't wrong or unprofessional. We're both consenting adults who have developed feelings for each other while working together respectfully. The board knows about my interest in you. I disclosed it weeks ago to maintain transparency. His words steadied her, but doubt still crept in. What if he tries to use this to damage the company's reputation? Project Phoenix is too important to risk over personal feelings. Is that what you really believe? Hoonwoo asked gently. Or is that fear talking? The fear that says you don't deserve happiness, that any joy must come with a price. Minji stood up, needing to move, to think. She walked to her office window, looking out at the city lights. I thought I was past this, she said quietly. Past letting him control my choices, my happiness. But every time I take a step forward, he's there, trying to pull me back. Hoonwoo joined her at the window, maintaining a respectful distance while still offering support. You know what I think, he said. I think Jun-suk's power over you isn't in his actions. It's in the doubt he creates. He knows he can't compete with your success or your strength, so he's trying to make you question everything you've built. His words struck a chord in Minji. She turned to face him, really seeing him, this man who had never tried to control her, who supported her growth while respecting her boundaries. I don't want to let fear win, she said firmly. I don't want to look back years from now and regret letting him steal another chance at happiness. Hoonwoo smiled, the kind of smile that reached his eyes and warmed his entire face. Then don't, he said simply. Choose happiness. Choose us. Whatever Jun-suk throws at us, we'll handle it together. Not as boss and employee, but as equals who respect and care for each other. Minji stepped closer to him, her decision made. I want this, she said quietly but firmly. I want to see where this goes, without letting fear or the past hold us back. She reached up and kissed him again, this time with more certainty, more passion. When they separated, Minji picked up her phone and blocked Jun-suk's number. The action was symbolic but significant, a declaration that she would no longer let him infiltrate the good things in her life. We should be prepared, she said practically. He won't stop just because I blocked his number. No, he probably won't, Hoonwoo agreed. But whatever comes next, we'll face it together. And Minji? He waited until she met his eyes. I'm not going anywhere. No matter what storms come our way, you won't have to weather them alone. As they left the office together that night, Walking hand in hand through the quiet streets of Seoul, Minji felt a profound sense of rightness. She had chosen not just love, but the kind of love that made her stronger, that celebrated her success instead of trying to diminish it. Whatever challenges Jun-suk might create, she knew in her heart that this choice, this man, this relationship, was worth fighting for. Ji-yoon sat at her desk late one evening, reviewing financial documents for Project Phoenix's international expansion. As head of partnership development, she had access to detailed investor records and business agreements. Something about the recent investment patterns had been bothering her, a nagging inconsistency she couldn't quite place. She pulled up the shareholder registry, cross-referencing it with recent investment transactions. A particular holding company caught her attention, Phoenix Ventures LLC, registered in Singapore. The company had acquired a significant minority stake in InnovateSphere through a series of carefully timed purchases over the past 6 months. Ji-yoon dug deeper, following the paper trail through various shell companies and offshore accounts. Her hands began to shake as she uncovered the truth. Phoenix Ventures led back to a familiar name, Young Enterprises, Jun-suk's family company. The same company that had supposedly gone bankrupt the previous year. It wasn't bankruptcy, Ji-yoon whispered to herself, the pieces falling into place. It was asset restructuring. She quickly pulled up news articles about Young Enterprises' collapse. What had appeared to be a business failure now revealed itself as a calculated move to hide assets and rebrand under different names. The sound of footsteps made her look up. Minji stood in the doorway, carrying 2 cups of evening coffee. "You missed our coffee break," Minji said, then noticed Ji-yoon's troubled expression. "What's wrong?" Ji-yoon gestured for Minji to close the door. "You need to see this," she said, turning her monitor so Minji could see the documents. "I've been tracking some unusual investment patterns, and I found something disturbing." As Minji read through the evidence, her face drained of color. The coffee cup sat forgotten on the desk as Ji-yoon explained her findings. "Jun-suk isn't just trying to get back into your life," Ji-yoon concluded. "He's been orchestrating a takeover attempt of InnovateSphere." Minji sank into a chair, her mind racing. The constant appearances, the threats about our relationship, the attempts to discredit Project Phoenix, it was all a smokescreen, she realized. He wanted us focused on the personal drama while he acquired company shares. "There's more," Ji-yoon said grimly. "Look at the timing of these purchases. They align perfectly with Project Phoenix's development milestones. Someone has been feeding him inside information about our progress." Minji's phone buzzed, a message from Hoonwoo asking her to join an emergency board meeting the next morning. "They must have discovered something too," she said, showing Ji-yoon the message. "Minji," Ji-yoon said carefully, "these documents show that Phoenix Ventures now owns 23% of InnovateSphere's shares. Combined with other aligned investors, they could potentially force major changes in company direction." The implications hit Minji like a physical blow. Jun-suk hadn't just been trying to undermine her personally, he had been using their past relationship as cover for a much larger scheme. Every appearance, every emotional manipulation had been calculated to distract from his true intentions. "I need to tell Hoonwoo immediately," Minji said, standing up. "But first, I want to hear it from Jun-suk himself." She pulled out her phone and unblocked his number, sending a simple message, "I know about Phoenix Ventures. Meet me at the Young Cafe in an hour." Ji-yoon grabbed her arm. "You can't go alone. What if it's dangerous?" "I'll be in a public place," Minji assured her. "And I need him to think he still has the upper hand. If he knows we've discovered everything, he might make his move before we can prepare." The Young Cafe was nearly empty when Minji arrived. Jun-suk sat at a corner table, his familiar smirk in place. "I knew you'd come back eventually," he said as she sat down. "You finally realized what you threw away?" Minji met his gaze steadily. "Why did you do it, Jun-suk? Was any of it real, or was I just a convenient way to get inside information about InnovateSphere?" His smirk faltered slightly. "What are you talking about?" "Phoenix Ventures," Minji said quietly. "Your family's hidden ownership. The perfectly timed stock purchases. Using our history to distract from your real agenda." Jun-suk's expression changed, the fake charm falling away to reveal something colder, more calculating. "You always were clever," he said, "but you're too late. By this time tomorrow, I'll have enough proxy votes to force a new direction for Project Phoenix. One that aligns with Young Enterprises' interests." "You mean one that strips away everything that makes it special," Minji corrected. "The personal touch, the commitment to preserving traditional businesses. You'd turn it into just another soulless digitalization platform." "Business isn't about soul, Minji. It's about profit. Something you and your precious Hunwoo seem to have forgotten." He leaned forward. "But I'm willing to be generous. Come back to me, take a position in the new management structure, and you can still be part of something successful." Minji stood up, finally seeing Jun-suk clearly, not as the man who had broken her heart, but as someone who had never understood what really mattered, in business or in love. "Success isn't just about profit margins," she said. "It's about creating something meaningful, something that helps people grow and thrive. But you wouldn't understand that, would you?" She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Jun-suk? Thank you for confirming everything on record." She nodded toward her phone on the table, its recording app quietly running. The color drained from Jun-suk's face as he realized his mistake. His admission of corporate espionage and attempted hostile takeover had been captured, along with his implied threats. Minji walked out of the cafe into the cool evening air, her heart pounding but her mind clear. She had what they needed to protect InnovateSphere, but she knew tomorrow's board meeting would still be a battle. As she headed to Hunwoo's office to share her evidence, she felt a strange sense of gratitude. Jun-suk's schemes had tried to destroy everything she cared about, but in doing so, they had only proved how much she had grown beyond the person he once controlled. The InnovateSphere boardroom crackled with tension on the morning of the emergency meeting. Board members sat around the massive oak table, their expressions grave as they reviewed the documents before them. Jun-suk sat near the head of the table, flanked by his legal team, his confident smile suggesting he believed victory was already his. Minji entered alongside Hunwoo, carrying a slim portfolio containing the evidence they had gathered overnight. Jiyoon had worked through the night with their legal department, preparing a comprehensive brief on Phoenix Ventures activities. The recording of Jun-suk's confession had been transcribed and authenticated by a third-party service. "Before we begin the official proceedings," Jun-suk announced, standing to address the board, "I want to raise serious concerns about the current direction of Project Phoenix. As a significant shareholder through Phoenix Ventures, I believe the company's resources are being misallocated on an overly idealistic approach to digitalization." He launched into a presentation, displaying graphs and projections that painted Project Phoenix as financially inefficient. "Our research shows that a streamlined, automated approach would increase profit margins by 40%. The current leadership's insistence on personalized support and gradual implementation is costing shareholders millions in potential returns." Minji watched the board members' reactions carefully. Some nodded at the financial projections, while others frowned at the implied criticism of their current strategy. Jun-suk continued, his voice growing more confident with each slide. "Furthermore, I must raise concerns about potential conflicts of interest in current management." He displayed the photos he had taken of Minji and Hunwoo together. "Personal relationships are compromising professional judgment. As shareholders, we must ensure that business decisions are based on sound financial principles, not emotional attachments." When Jun-suk finished, a heavy silence fell over the room. The chairwoman, Mrs. Lee, turned to Minji. "Miss Park, do you have a response to these allegations?" Minji stood, her voice steady as she addressed the board. "Yes, I do. But first, I'd like to play something for you." She connected her phone to the room's audio system and played Jun-suk's recorded confession from the cafe. His words filled the room, admitting to corporate espionage and his planned hostile takeover. The color drained from Jun-suk's face as his own voice exposed his schemes. But Minji wasn't finished. She distributed copies of Jiyoon's research, showing how Phoenix Ventures had systematically acquired shares while receiving insider information. "Mr. Young's presentation about profit margins is based on manipulated data," Minji explained, displaying their own financial analysis. Project Phoenix's current model shows sustainable growth and strong client retention. We're not just generating profits, we're building lasting partnerships that ensure long-term success. She pulled up testimonials from their client businesses. These are the real numbers, verified by independent auditors. Our approach has resulted in a 97% client retention rate and an average revenue increase of 60% for participating businesses. Hoon-woo stepped forward, adding his perspective. The suggestion that personal relationships have compromised our judgment is particularly ironic, given that Mr. Jung attempted to use his past relationship with Ms. Park to gather corporate intelligence. Yes, Ms. Park and I have developed feelings for each other. We disclosed this to the board weeks ago, following all proper protocols. Our personal relationship has never compromised our professional integrity. Mrs. Lee studied the evidence before her expression hardening. Mr. Jung, these allegations of corporate espionage and market manipulation are extremely serious. If verified, they could result in criminal charges. Jun-suk's lawyer leaned forward to whisper urgently in his ear, but Jun-suk brushed him off. You can't prove anything beyond that recording, which could have been manipulated. Phoenix Ventures investments were all legal. Actually, Ji-yoon spoke up from her position near the door. We can prove everything. She wheeled in a cart loaded with documents. These are records of every information leak, every manufactured crisis, and every attempt to manipulate InnovateSphere's stock price. We've been building this file for weeks, ever since we noticed the pattern in Phoenix Ventures acquisitions. The evidence was overwhelming. Documents showed how Jun-suk had orchestrated his family company's apparent bankruptcy to hide assets, how he had planted spies within InnovateSphere, and how he had timed his appearances in Min-ji's life to coincide with crucial company decisions. The board moved swiftly. They voted to freeze Phoenix Ventures' voting rights pending investigation and to initiate legal proceedings for securities fraud. As security escorted Jun-suk from the building, he turned to Min-ji one last time. I still don't understand, he said. How did you become so different from the woman I knew? Min-ji met his gaze steadily. I didn't become different, Jun-suk. I became myself. You just never took the time to see who that was. She watched him leave, feeling not triumph, but a quiet sense of closure. After the board meeting concluded, Min-ji found herself back in her office, looking out at the city she had come to love. Hoon-woo joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. You were magnificent in there, he said softly. We all were, she corrected, thinking of Ji-yoon's dedication, Hoon-woo's unwavering support, and the strength she had found in herself. I realized something today. When I first came to InnovateSphere, I was running away from pain, from betrayal. But somewhere along the way, I started running toward something instead, toward purpose, toward real love, toward the person I was always meant to be. Hoon-woo turned her to face him. And who is that person? He asked, though his smile suggested he already knew the answer. Someone who understands that true success isn't about power or control, Min-ji replied. It's about building something meaningful, about helping others grow, about finding the courage to love without fear. She reached up to touch his face, seeing in his eyes the same commitment to creating something beautiful and lasting, both in business and in love. As they stood together, looking out at the Seoul skyline, Min-ji felt a profound sense of peace. She had arrived at InnovateSphere looking for a fresh start, but she had found something far more valuable. She had found her true self, a love worth fighting for, and the knowledge that sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating our enemies, but from refusing to let them define our story.